Welcome everyone to Stadium Journey Obstructed Views, the show where a couple of guys in a couple of countries drink a couple of beers or more and discuss a stadium somewhere in the world and their experiences there. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And we're glad to be here with you tonight. Before we get started, do that like, share, follow thing. Stadium Journey's YouTube page, where you can find all of our obstructed views. Closing in on a milestone soon. And, of course, check out stadiumjourney.com for all of our fantastic comment. All right, so let's get started. Dave, what are you drinking today?
So, haven't been out to get a lot. Had to go to the fridge and I don't know if you remember this. I got the
magic beer fridge,
the Advent beer calendar one year.
Yes.
So I had to pluck from the Advent beer calendar because I don't know what it's like in New England. In Ontario, it's really hot right now. So, that takes a good chunk of the beers out. Probably not in your fridge, but in mine, like the stout, nope, not tonight. The Bock, not tonight. Anything too heavy. So
no heavy beers when it's 90 degrees out.
Yeah, nice and light. So I got myself from Brock Street Brewery in Whitby, Ontario, the Brock Street Blonde. And it's perfect summer beer, light, crisp, not too stouty or bocky or IPA-ish. What do you got? I think I made up a whole whack of words there.
There you go, but hey, it works. We can just say, it's Canadian. You were talking one time about your magic beer fridge, that somehow people come by and leave beers, and all of a sudden you have all these beers you didn't buy and all these different kinds of beers. I have a cabinet that's doing the same thing. It's reproducing beers. So before we were recording, I reached in there and grabbed out one, and luckily for me, people are bringing good beer. They're not bringing a 12-pack of Coors Light or something.
Nice.
So I actually found a local beer called Pocasset Pilsner. Very spooky looking can here.
Ooh.
Dark and sinister. Pocasset, this is brewed in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, which is right across the river from the town I grew up in, Tiverton. The area, before it was settled by the Europeans, was known as Pocasset, part of the area. So that's where the Pocasset Pilsner comes from. And like you said, great summer beer, light, crisp, and it's going to be 90 degrees here all week. I don't know what that is in Canadian, but
hot.
Yeah, either way, whatever temperature scale you're using, it's going to be hot. So it's going to be that all week. So yeah, I was not doing anything too heavy. No stouts, no IPAs. Not that I venture into that territory often, but that just cinched the deal. So if we were visiting today's destination, we might be drinking a Breaking Ball beer. I don't know if they were going for the Breaking Bad reference there, Breaking Ball, from Detroit Beer Company in Detroit, Michigan, because today we're talking about Comerica Park, home of the Detroit Tigers. Before we dive in, let's take a look at the Stadium Vitals. Okay, so Comerica Park and the Detroit Tigers, and I don't know why I said Detroit, because I never say it that way.
That seems more like a Pistons thing. Detroit basketball.
But anyway, we talk a lot on the Stadium Journey family of podcasts about how the reverse retro ballparks, as they were first coined, kind of turned into the new version of the cookie cutter ballpark. Well, green seats, red brick. You see it in this city, you see it in that city. Started Baltimore, and it's kind of taken over. I'd say at least a good half of the ballparks kind of feature that design. What does or does not make Comerica Park fall into that category?
Well, right off the top is the age. It's on the older side of the reverse retro, so it was built in 2000. To me, I feel that Comerica is kind of underrated. It's kind of the oh yeah stadium, oh yeah, I had a good time there. But no stadium embraces its team more than Comerica Park. There are not, like, you go to Boston and there's not a bunch of Red Sox kicking around or feet or whatever.
Because that would be stupid.
That would be stupid. You don't go to St. Louis and see a bunch of cardinal things, like cardinal
You don't?
statues. But in Detroit, and you've got the mascot for it. It works. It's not like the Red Sox where that would be dumb. But in Detroit, you have at least nine giant tiger statues.
No doubt.
And
Yeah, and if you ask anybody to give you their first impression of Comerica Park, they're going to say the tiger statues.
yeah, and they're great.
Yeah.
They're well done. It's not like they're just sort of standing there. There's that one at kind of the main
Yes,
entrance.
they are. They're statues.
It's well. Ah. No, they're in kind of different poses. Does that work better for you?
Sure. I know what you meant, but it just sounded funny.
Well, at the main entrance, there's that 15-foot high one, the really
yes,
big
I-
one that's got the paw out and it's like ready to get you. And they're most of them are, I guess, about 7 of them would be that kind of, I'd call it like sandblasted kind of look. That concrete. It's not concrete. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's like it's a pale. It's not colored or anything like that.
Right. They're not orange and black tigers.
Yeah,
They're
no.
all white, all done in white.
The ones on the 2 on the top of the scoreboard are colored. But yeah, no park just embraces its team's moniker more than that.
Okay.
And to me it's a huge step out of that multi-purpose facility, right? Like, who else is going to go in there? Whoever else is going to go in there for anything is going to have to deal with, this is the home of the Tigers, whether you like it or not. And it's not a team that's been tremendously successful over the years. I mean, I always remember them as being very good because being a kid in the 80s was right in that Tiger wheelhouse, right?
Well,
Like
that 84 Tigers
that eight-
team was absolutely legendary.
so the 84 Tiger team was the best team in baseball. Do you know who the second best team in baseball was that year?
Probably, I'm guessing Toronto, since you brought it
was
up.
the Toronto Blue Jays. They were in second place, and because
When
in
they went, what, they
84
lose by 17 games?
yeah, they were like way back. The Tigers went 20-1 to start the season that year.
And then I think they were 35-5.
It was just ridiculous. And yeah, and because at that time, each division winner made the playoffs. So that was it.
No wild cards.
Second best team in
The season was over May 1st.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. And you know what's funny about that is that team is not even the crux of the Tigers' history, right? You go look at your bronze statues there.
Yep.
There are no 84 Tigers out there. You got your Ty Cobb, your Hank Greenberg. Like these are your legends. Al Kaline.
Yep.
There's no Kirk Gibson. There's no Lou Whitaker or Alan Trammell or Jack Morris.
Really?
Not statues. No.
Wow. I would have guessed at least Gibson and Morris.
Yeah. Well, Morris is a pretty recent addition to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And,
he might be more known as a twin also.
Well, except that he was only a twin for like a year.
What a year that was, though, huh?
It was
that World Series game 10.
That was quite the year. Yeah, no doubt. So yeah, their history goes back even farther than that team that is just so iconic from my point of view anyway.
Yeah, I was thinking we were gonna do. Thank you for stuttering, Paul. When we were talking about doing the Tigers, I'm thinking, okay, let's remember back to my last visit because it's been a little while for me. What do I remember about the ballpark? And I'm thinking, I don't remember much about this ballpark. That's how nondescript it is. Then I started thinking, wait, there were tigers everywhere. It had a really nice gift shop too. I remember that. The statues in the outfield.
Mm-hmm.
Then they have a Ferris wheel.
Yep.
With little baseballs as cars.
Yep.
I mean, it's not huge, but if you're there with your kids, keep the kids busy for a few minutes.
I've done it. I've been on it.
Me too. And they have a food court there.
Yes.
Not many ballparks have an actual food court.
Yeah, it's probably one of the first actually that I remember seeing where there's that actual court, almost like a mall, outdoors, of course.
Exactly.
almost like a mall, and you got a number of different stands around, and you can there's places to sit,
Yep.
picnic tables or whatever. Yeah. And the fountain. They have a fountain in center field.
I don't remember the fountain.
They do. Well, you may not have seen any runs scored because that's when the fountain goes.
Yeah, the game I saw was a great pitcher's duel. It was like a 3-1 game or something. It was I remember it was Edwin Jackson, and he pitched like a 2-hitter. So yeah, just may not have got a chance to see it, or maybe I just don't remember it.
But yeah, I found it to be, it was because of my proximity to it. It was probably like the first outside of my own kind of area stadium that I saw. And I've been there 12 times, and with the Tigers struggles, that like when they built it, it was definitely a pitcher's park. So much
Yes,
so that
they have moved the fences in several times.
they had to move the fences in because they couldn't get anybody to go there. And I don't know if you remember, they signed Juan Gonzalez as a free agent, and part of that signing was they had to bring in the fences because he wanted to hit home runs.
So yeah, I remember the ballpark as a facility. I mean, even though I said it was unremarkable, I don't remember leaving there thinking that there was anything bad about it. I mean, the prices were reasonable, the seats were comfortable, the viewpoints were good, and that was one of those games. It was a very small crowd, so we bounced and bounced and bounced and checked out the game from a bunch of different places, and I enjoyed it. But yeah, but to me, it just blends in with all that era of ballparks, fairly or unfairly. For me, that's my feelings about it.
I think one of the things that's neat about that park, and like I said, it's been probably about 20 years since I've kind of started going to that one, is how the area has changed.
That was
So one of the
part
very
the
first
show, yes.
times I went, bought a program. That's how long ago it is. Bought a program. And in the program, they had like the skyline key, right? So they had a picture kind of from behind home plate with, looking out into the downtown and labeling what all the buildings were. And it was actually kind of depressing because all of the buildings were formerly this and formerly that. This building used to house a bunch of doctors and dentists. Used to, now it's empty. Now this building over here used to be this, and now it's empty. And this building over here used to be this, and now it's empty. But those days are gone. Like the revitalization of downtown Detroit has been very significant. Now, can you say it's because of Comerica Park and Ford Field and the Fox Theater? Maybe. I think it's fair to say it can't hurt. They didn't hurt. For all those, multi-billionaire owners who are trying to get billions of dollars from their counties, I'm not going to go out there and say, yep, the revitalization of downtown was because of Comerica Park.
There you go, soundbite.
But yeah, it's a fun place. One of the things, and this is totally a bygone era, one of the things I absolutely loved about Detroit is they used to have Sunday coaches clinics. So on the field, they would have like the hitting coach in one corner, and he'd be giving a little talk on how to hit. They'd have a pitching coach in center field, and he'd be giving a talk on how to pitch. And they have like a guest coach like Chet Lemon in right field talking about fielding and stuff. You could go on the field for all of these on the grass before the game. It was awesome. I didn't care about anything that those guys had to say, but you're on the field. You get pictures of yourself on the field. Like, geez, you do a tour of a place now and you can't get on the field.
No doubt. Yeah, you were talking about the neighborhood, Dave, and I remember we went there, and I don't remember exactly what year it was, somewhere around 2010, give or take. And we got there early because I don't know where we were going before. And had nothing to do, so we decided to take a walk. Which way do we walk? We don't know Detroit. Let's walk towards the water that way. And so we're walking down whatever street that is. It's pretty one of their main drags. So we weren't feeling like we were going to be nervous right there. You hear all these bad stories about Detroit. The area around the ballpark is perfectly safe.
Mhm.
And we walked and we noticed, like you said, empty building, empty building, empty building. We passed one that was actually the Detroit Chamber of Commerce. We're like, great. They'll tell us where we can go. Nothing. We ended up walking all the way down to the river and checked out Joe Louis Arena from the outside and stuff, and then
Wow.
walked all the way back. It's actually not that far of a walk, but it's great to hear that the stadium complex, and they do have, let's face it, they do have a stadium complex, much like Philadelphia.
Hmm.
Comerica Park is here, Ford Field is right behind it, and then Little Caesars Arena is maybe a block away, a block or
Yep.
two away
Other side
on
of
the
the
other side of
highway,
the
but
highway.
yep.
So, and in there you also have the historic Fox Theater. You have Hockey Town cafes there. There's a few other restaurants that have popped up. So it's a place now that's becoming what every city says it's going to happen when they build one of these things. Is yep, it's going to develop the area. Well, it looks like it's starting to happen.
Yeah, but it didn't happen overnight. Like it wasn't
No,
like, they built it in 2000 and by 2003 it was like bumping in, you know, sunshine and
no.
lollipops or anything like that. Like
Like I,
it took a while.
at
It
least
took
10 years later, it hadn't happened yet. So
yeah,
absolutely,
it took a long while. Um I kind of get the cookie cutter bit, it is the brown brick, it is the green seats. Uh but again, it was at the front end of that. 2000, hey, this is a 24-year-old stadium now.
it's
And
funny
I
to think
think,
that some of these stadiums are getting to be middle aged
yeah, no doubt. Well, I don't even know if it's middle-aged now the way they're senior citizens, some of these ones, like
with
with the rate
Texas.
at which
Yeah.
they're looking at changing them. It's a little ridiculous.
Speaking of senior citizens, one neat thing you can do if you're a baseball fan and you're in Detroit is you can go check out the site of the old Tiger Stadium, which is not too far away. I think it's maybe 2, 3 miles away on Trumbull. It is Trumbull, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Um, but for the longest time, the site where the old Tiger Stadium was, the stadium had been knocked down, and the city was playing hot potato trying to figure out what to do with the site. And in the meantime, while the city couldn't figure it out, a bunch of local citizens were keeping up the field. So the actual infield was there, and the actual flagpole in center field from Tiger Stadium was there. Now, since there's been a plan made, and it's now an American Legion field with a very small stadium and locker rooms and dugouts and all that. It's really a nice place, but it is the exact site where the Tigers played for years and years and years.
And it's a funny thing. If there is one stadium that I hear about the most that is gone, that people wish it was still around, it's Tiger Stadium. I can't
Yeah,
think of another one where, like, oh man, I wish
maybe
we
Comiskey.
maybe. But I feel like if that's the case for Comiskey, it's more that they just don't like the one that's there now, as
Agreed.
opposed to loving Comiskey, old Comiskey anyway. But yeah, for some reason, like especially around here, like we get a lot of, there's a lot of talk about Detroit because it's close, and
Sure.
there's always this talk about, Tiger Stadium, and they should have never tore down Tiger Stadium. It's talked about sort of in the same vein as a Fenway or a Wrigley. But I don't get it. And how I am, like it's got posts in the view, not interested. Uh I think it's fair to say that the location is better now at Comerica than it was in old Tiger Stadium.
There is one really nice barbecue restaurant right next to where the old stadium was, but yeah, not a whole lot in that neighborhood.
Actually it's something that I haven't seen. So you said that there's this, the old Tiger Stadium is still kind of there, and there's a field there. I'm looking at the Google Maps, and so that's on my list now. I'm gonna have to Next time I'm down there, I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to go and check it out.
When we visited, it was not, it hadn't been redeveloped, so it was still just a grass field, and there were a couple of benches and a couple of picnic tables that really were had seen better days, let's say. But it's something, Pam and I had to go there, and we walked out on the field with our gloves, and we played catch on this Tiger Stadium field for a little while, and we've got pictures of me on the mound. You can see the big flagpole in center field. It's pretty cool. So yeah, definitely something to check out if you're a baseball historian.
Wow, it's called the Corner Ballpark, and this area is kind of fairly well developed. They've got a whole set of apartment buildings along like the first base side.
Oh, nice.
So kind of like that. What I would say is, like the minor league style, where
Yeah.
you get those. I find it mostly in like single A, where you get the apartment complexes that are out in center field or whatever. And if you get the highest ones, you can actually look in the field and that kind of stuff. But
My
this is
dream,
along
my
like
dream retirement location.
yeah, but this is on like the first base side. So, but yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out next time I am in Detroit City.
You never went to the old Tiger Stadium?
I never did. No, I like the first. I mean, really, I started traveling kind of 2000 between 2000 2002 kind of thing. That was like when I was kind of getting my wheels going. So I never went to the old Tiger Stadium.
But the new Tiger
And
Stadium, I'm with you, Dave. Got it from what I've heard. I'd never been, but it throw out the nostalgia factor, and it's got to be leaps and bounds better for the fan experience.
yeah, '02 was my first trip to Tiger Stadium. So uh yeah, it's one of those historic franchises. It's one that you don't really think of because, like I said, they haven't been terrific.
Well,
Um,
not lately, but they are one of the more successful franchises if you look over the entirety of their existence.
well,
Well, you got the Yankees, or probably have won a whole lot more. The Red Sox have won more. Who else in the American League has won more?
World Series titles, 4. That's not a
That's it,
ton.
really.
Yeah. 35, 45, 68, 84. Uh, and 11, 11
11 pennants.
American League championships. So
Okay.
they've been to the World Series 11 times.
Huh.
So that's
I
not
would
a
have.
ton,
No, no, not when you think over
considering,
100 years.
yeah, 1894.
Huh. Well,
So they're
Detroit,
one of the
get
oldest.
moving.
Yeah, get on it, man.
Well, it's tough when the Yankees have won 27 and the Cardinals have won another dozen or so. And
Yeah. Yeah, and I like how they put their statues in the stadium as opposed to outside. So they're kind of in like that new Comiskey kind of style where they're like you go walk
they're
around
in motion.
in their kind of center field area. Um that motion it's like it's almost like the Red Wings statues if you ever remember those, like
Yeah, and I don't
you
like them.
got the Gordie Howe with the stick moving and like I don't know, there's all this kind of motion
Yeah,
bronze.
yeah.
It's just like there's a whole lot of extra stuff going on there. Uh Question for you. How do you feel about having a Ty Cobb statue?
One of the greatest personalities figures in baseball history. So I don't know. It's the old the argument today that seems to be everywhere. Can you separate the man from the baseball player?
In
I can.
20 in the 2020s, and they're building bronze statues for the Tigers for the first time. Do you think there's a Ty Cobb one?
Yes.
Okay.
And when you think of the Tigers franchise, who's the first person that comes to mind?
Jack Morse.
That's because we're young. That's because we're younger.
Oh, Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
Magnum
All right.
PI.
And And as we talk about Kevin Costner's worst baseball movie, I think that's a good place for us to end our conversation. I watched it
Well,
when I watched it.
actually, to be honest, I don't think of Ty Cobb as anything really. He's kind of one of those personalities that's so old, and you know of
Yeah,
him, but I don't
that's
think of him as a Detroit Tiger. I know he is,
yeah,
but
yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those things. His time might be just past. So now we'll focus on the new people.
yeah,
Maybe that's what Detroit needs to do to make their park stand out from the rest.
get
But
rid of Ty
anyway,
Cobb.
there you go.
Get a Jack Morris big honkin' mustache statue.
There you go. So that's our look at Comerica Park, home of the Detroit Tigers. We're glad you joined us today, and we hope to see you again on the road real soon. Cheers.
Cheers.